So I'm going to play you his video that he made about the Great Reset, and then the interview with him, and then I'll get back to the show.
What is the Great Reset? Let's walk through monetary policy. What's happening right now? What have we done over the last 8 months? Oh, we've increased our national debt by 50%. What happens if Joe Biden becomes the president? Oh, we're going to increase it more. We're going to increase it more anyways. Is this sustainable? I think global debt increased by 40% during the pandemic. Where did that money go? Oh, well, if you haven't looked, we're at all-time highs right now in the stock market. What's been moving more than anything? Oh, big tech.
Oh wait, you mean to tell me that Apple and Google and Amazon and Facebook are up 50% from their previous all-time highs? That they're releasing record numbers during the coronavirus pandemic, and that's what everyone's buying from, and that's where all the money's going, while 40% of small businesses are going to close permanently as we do new lockdowns in New York and California and Kentucky and any state with a Democratic governor. As more businesses close and the money continues to pour into Amazon and the companies we just mentioned. So what's happening here? What's happening? It's almost like it worked out pretty damn well for big tech, for other multinational corporations that have literally billions of dollars in their cash reserves and businesses only picked up. But it's unsafe to eat in the small business, but not for Amazon to deliver to you.
So I'll tell you what the Great Reset is. The Great Reset is the absolute elimination of the middle class, of traditional enterprise, entrepreneurial business activity. You know, they're making it damn near impossible. Regurgitating conspiracy YouTube vids, it sounds like. If that's what you take away from this stream, you are so beyond saving at this point. Like, bro, you are so tapped out. Like, it's not even funny how tapped out you are. Like, you got KO'd before you even stepped in the ring. Sorry you were tapped out. I'm tapped in. You're tapped out and I'm tapped in. If that's your takeaway, like, this sounds like a conspiracy theory. Bro, the entire world is a conspiracy. The entire world we live in has been a product of 60 years of orienting the world to you, okay? Like, I can't with these people.
Hey Josh, what's up, man?
Not much, you?
I'm well, man. I'm glad to be here. I appreciate you bringing me on.
Yeah, dude. I didn't realize you followed me, but I saw your video the other day about the Great Reset, and I needed to have you on because it was really good. I like quick, concise, smart videos like that.
Yeah, of course. No, I appreciate it, man. Mr. R did a great edit, and it was cool. It was funny how it kind of made its way around our side of Twitter like that.
Yeah, it's funny because older people that I interact with outside of the internet aren't really aware of the Great Reset. They think it's a conspiracy theory, and I'm telling them look up from the World Economic Forum. It's not a conspiracy. They're talking about it openly.
Yes. Well, that's exactly how it is. When it comes to institutional power, everything is a far-right conspiracy theory until the second they explicate it, until the second they bring it up. And that's how it always is. And so it's no different with the Great Reset, because when they talk about it by name, as like you mentioned at the World Economic Forum, then they brought it into the open. But until the very moment where they explicitly discuss it, you're a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, it's pretty bizarre. And when you look at what's happening, when you look back at the last 9 months, everything seems to kind of make sense now, and everything is connected. And I know with conspiracies, everything's always connected. We have the yarn on the wall, the red yarn, and connecting all the dots, but it's pretty apparent. You explained it in the video. Companies like Amazon are doubling their profits. Which is unbelievable in that amount of time. The middle class is being abandoned and destroyed, and it's right there. Also, the whole election scenario that we're experiencing, the ballot harvesting, all of that.
Yes,
it all seems to make sense, and it's all connected.
Well, one thing I think is important to understand about the Great Reset is an assertion of total dominion over our lives by a few tech companies and the banks. And that's what the Great Reset is. And it's like I sort of mentioned in the video. If you've experienced the last 9 months and you haven't detected even a whiff of something seems off a little bit, something's not right, then they have total control over you,
Because if you look at this where we have new lockdowns, businesses being destroyed, 35 to 40% of small businesses will never reopen. And meanwhile, Amazon in its last quarter of earnings had a projection of about $1.20, and they came through with over $10 per share. They beat their earnings expectations by 800%. Google doing, these tech companies are doing better than ever. And at the same time, they're censoring voices like ours more than ever. And so this is nothing but a naked power grab by these companies that believe they're entitled to total dominion over what we think, what we consume, and how we live.
What's bizarre is it's kind of, if you look at the people who obsess about the masks, the mask patrol, it's almost like Gestapo. These people are on the same level as us. They're not privy to the information given from the World Economic Forum. They're not the elites, yet they police. They help police for the elites. They're doing the same with this. I have a friend who posted in his story. We live in Los Angeles. He posted in his story a Los Angeles Times article saying that the new lockdowns are shutting down the restaurants, and he wrote, "Good, finally." And it's like, dude, you're cheering on the destruction of middle class businesses, of small businesses. I don't understand.
It's unreal. Maybe you saw this on Twitter. There was an Australian woman. Now, Australia is behaving about as authoritarian as any country right now in terms of their lockdown, where you're essentially not allowed to leave your house. And a woman tweeted and said, "What are the guidelines for exercising?" at her local police precinct.
Saw that. Yeah.
The precinct responded, "You are not allowed to leave your home to exercise." And she responded and said, "Yes, I'm tagging my husband in this." And then in all caps, "Thank you for keeping us safe." And it's insane.
Yeah. Well, we live in a feminized society, and when masculine men don't stand up, and when they're silenced, this is the result. And it's weird that women and even dudes champion these sorts of behaviors. It's counter to how we're programmed. It's bizarre. And one thing I was thinking about today is this notion that there's such a thing called essential business, essential jobs. Every job is essential. I was at my gym today. My gym is not complying with the lockdowns. They're pretending like they're closed. And I saw in the middle of the workout, the Costco guy came in to drop off some drinks and stuff and other things that the gym needs to function. And then you can zoom out and say, okay, well, the gym is open, the lights are on, they have to pay for the lights, they have to pay for the water, they have to pay for the people that work in the gym, the people that pay. So every business is essential. This notion that there is essential and non-essential businesses, well, it's essential to the people who run the businesses so they can provide for themselves. And one of the solutions that these amazing globalists are saying are pushing is a UBI. I mean, that's destructive.
Yes. But that's a central feature of the Great Reset. And you have to understand what the long-term, desired outcome is for these globalists and these people. They want you forcibly relocated to a major metropolitan city. Of course, your industry was harmful to the climate or something like that. And you're brought in and you're essentially working a job that's either subsidized by the government or it's working for one of these major tech companies or working at their behest in some capacity. And you're living in a major metropolitan city, off UBI, eating Beyond Burgers and drinking cockroach milk. And that is the ultimate goal. And it's so critical to recognize that. And it's always, again, like with the concept of the Great Reset in and of itself, it's a conspiracy theory until they come out and advocate for it, even though that's what they're already doing through academia, through their proxies and institutional power that serve at the behest of these major corporations and bureaucrats that want to dictate every aspect of the way you live your life.
Yeah. One of the questions I had with regards to your video is the debt. The debt is rising like crazy. I think you said it was 50%. We've spent like 50% of the total debt in the United States. Right?
Yes.
We added 50% to it or something like that.
From about 20 to about 30 trillion in the
right.
United States.
I mean, those numbers are already so comical to me that it's just like, whatever. Does anything matter anymore? I don't even understand 30 trillion, the number. But one of the things I've heard from a couple of older people that I admire is that, for instance, I think Trump doesn't believe in the coronavirus, that it's that big of a problem as we thought in the beginning.
Of
But I
course.
think that he was doing certain things like the $1,200 check and all that, and spending a ton of money to kind of fuck over China. We owe a lot of money to China, and if we devalue the dollar, we all within the country can adjust to inflation, I guess. And by the way, I'm not a financial person, so but the money we owe to China, this kind of just ends up fucking them over, and this is one other way to fuck them over. Is there any validity to that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is true. So China, if you remember, maybe 12 months back, the United States officially designated China as a currency manipulator, which is something they do in order to increase what they're able to accomplish through international trade and international business. And so you are correct in that because China holds so much of our debt, that a less valuable dollar in theory hurts China. The debt they hold is not as valuable to them. Now, what China's able to do, and maybe you remember there was speculation on this over the summer, was that China would begin unloading our treasury bonds that they hold, which would greatly accelerate the devaluation of the dollar to the point where it would really hurt the United States. But China's not in a position to do that right now because of President Trump's achievements in dealing with China. He severely constrained their GDP growth and their economic growth throughout his presidency. And so, but no, you are right that the debt is not as consequential to the United States so long as we remain the world's preeminent area of commerce, which, ultimately most money flows through the United States.
Yeah. Do you see that changing anytime soon? And how would it change? Like, what would trigger that?
Well, if Joe Biden, the Democrat, Joe Biden's basically running on a platform to sell our country out to China. I still believe President Trump's going to win, but Joe Biden, exists to serve China. And we already know with Hunter Biden and everything that's happened there that they have significant blackmail on the Biden family and likely many other, mostly Democratic politicians, but frankly, I'm sure Republicans as well. And so what it would be is, if Joe Biden comes into office and resumes the managed decline that's occurred for 60 years, but really especially under Barack Obama, under the corporate bureaucracy that comprises the United States government under, like the Obama administration, that would certainly comprise the Biden administration, that would accelerate when we continue to offshore jobs, when we continue to, allow China to, have trade outcomes that are extremely favorable to them and extremely disfavorable to us and to our workers and to our farmers. That's something that would, continue to manage the managed decline of the United States that's persisted for decades.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. I first of all, I'm with you. I think that Trump will win this thing, especially after today. I go through like some days I'm thinking, okay, we're done, it's over. I just move on. Don't raise your hopes. And then a day like today, I'm thinking, okay, no, we're still in this, and Trump will win. And you can tell in the tone of his voice that he's in it to win it, and he's fighting, and he hasn't given up, and he doesn't even seem slow and tired. He seems energetic.
Absolutely.
But that being said, so I want to hear your thoughts on that. But that being said, doesn't it feel like the floodgates are kind of just being? It's like we have a giant we have a giant dam, and Trump is like this little Band-Aid, and okay, we're going to prolong it for 4 more years. It's not that big of a deal, because then after that, regardless of party, we're going to have another George W. Bush type or Barack Obama type. So like, does it even matter?
Well, so I agree with your insight. And here's what I think is so critical if President Trump is indeed able to serve another 4 years. Look at what he's done with the Pentagon, with clearing out disloyal people and non-Trump people and putting in people that are on board with his America First agenda. I think President Trump will be able to accomplish so much in a second term that it will change the Republican Party at such a fundamental level that it will be at least people who are from now on ideologically aligned with President Trump and his policy goals. So that, I think, is a silver lining on the Republican side.
Now, let me share what my thoughts actually were and what I still honestly think is the case. I don't think the Democrats want Joe Biden to win. I think it's about a 50% chance that they are always tried to lose the election because they've made the fraud so obvious. You have to think about this. Barack Obama actively tried to convince Joe Biden not to run. Now, we already know the DNC wanted Kamala Harris to be the candidate, and she was so dislikable, whatever, she got 8th, 9th place in her own state in the Democratic primaries. So she was always meant to at least be on that ticket. But if you're a Democratic strategist and you're thinking about 20, 30 years of power, I think if you win the election in this way, you see a Republican beat down at the midterms. And, if we have a Ron DeSantis, Tucker Carlson ticket, I think in a fair election, they would win against, because Joe Biden will be gone within 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I mention this is because imagine the way the left could radicalize its supporters if our white supremacist president is handed the election by the courts that he packed, and they deliver the election to him and deprive the will of the people, and pursuantly what they've done in disenfranchising black and brown voices, because we know the fraud occurred in Philadelphia, Atlanta, Detroit, Milwaukee. And so picture this. If you're a left-wing strategist, imagine you've got Black Lives Matter marching through white communities on Christmas Day, and you've got, if President Trump is given this election in the next few weeks, you would have your supporters so gaslit. And then what you've done is you've written yourself, as the Democrats, you've written yourself a blank check to abuse institutional power in any way you want the next time you're in power when you want it, because of what the president's done to the election.
Well, so if that happens, then going back to what you said, what Trump can accomplish in his second term, don't you think that would hinder him from doing anything in his second term?
My thoughts are that if President Trump, because he's been able to clear out some of the subversive elements in his administration, I think if he doesn't have to worry about another presidential election, I think you'll see him act in ways that are a lot truer to his instincts. Mm-hmm. And so, if you look at President Trump and we continue to do well and we're able to pick up a House majority in 2022, I think if President Trump ends up retaining the presidency, I think we'll win both Senate seats. So we're looking at 52 Senate seats, the White House, and being in a very small minority in the House. And I think President Trump could get a lot done, especially with building the wall, his excellent foreign policy, which I think is the best since Teddy Roosevelt. Yeah. But no, to answer your question, I think the left is always going to be a reflexively opposing force. It doesn't matter if he cured cancer, they'd say it took too long.
Right.
The reality is his response to the coronavirus was phenomenal. Now, maybe his messaging, he's not the clearest speaker, but when you look at the raw outcome, he's done an excellent job. But people think, we had third world medical care. People think that this has been some existential disaster that President Trump has brought on by not listening to the science.
Right.
So,
yeah, man, I think you're right. I think this would put a damper in, if this does happen, if he stays in office, it would put a damper on the Great Reset. But it's been in their plans for quite a long time.
Yes.
And it doesn't seem like they would let up. It seems like they're going to keep pushing this shit. And I don't know what the true solution would be, because it's almost like our country has been completely infiltrated. If you're teaching the youth to believe in all these things, then it's like, I'm kind of hopeful and I'm kind of not.
Let me say one more thing in regards to the Great Reset is, now imagine this, when we relate it to the debt. So we know all the people that really dictate how the global financials move. Imagine if President Trump does keep the White House, and at some point in the next 4 years, we have a global economic collapse, a global debt-related economic collapse. What can you say if you're the left? Because we know they love to simplify just down to these one-sentence phrases. You say, we are in a global economic collapse because Donald Trump ignored the science, period. you can just say that, and like 40% of our country at least will get on board with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you bring on a Barack Obama 2.0, the perfect Manchurian candidate, who comes on advocating policies that advance this great reset agenda, but people like think we have a savior. And you have someone come on and they start moving towards a one world currency, which of course inevitably from that will follow a one world government. So that's why I say, when you look at the left's long-term agenda, why not try to inflict as much chaos as possible, blame it all on Donald Trump, and then what you've also been able to do is discredit anything of a pro-nationalism, pro-economic populism movement that the Trump administration is, that the Trump presidency is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in this idea of a DeSantis Tucker Carlson ticket or whatever, that only will exist if Trump stays in office. If he doesn't stay in office, if Biden gets in, we don't have elections anymore. It's done.
Right.
It's fake.
Right.
It's all a show after that. It's done.
Yes. And maybe even they allow a corporate-owned Republican to win in the future. But if President Trump is unsuccessful in retaining the presidency, because we know he won by a landslide, he probably won the damn popular vote.
I think so too. Yeah,
I genuinely think so. I genuinely won't be surprised if we find out California was red throughout all
or close to it. Usually
right.
it's 70-30, 65-40, 65-35 or whatever. But I think that it was more. I mean, Beverly Hills turned red, and it's safe to say many other places probably did as well, especially if you look at the House seats that were won.
Yeah, unreal in the House in California. So what
do you think are the odds Trump is staying in office? Because the betting odds are going up a little bit.
Yeah.
But they something major needs to happen for a major shift in the odds. But what do you think the odds are?
I put it at 51-49. I think it's more likely than not that and I'm being completely honest. I put it at 51-49 that he retains the White House. Let me tell you the most reassuring thing to me. When they declared Biden the winner on Saturday, November 6th or 7th or whenever that was, and AP got the shot of President Trump on the golf course.
Yeah.
That to me was so much more reassuring than if he rumbles out and has a press conference and he's blustering about how the Democrats didn't see. I think he was fully prepared for what occurred. And I genuinely think that his legal team right now is constructing an airtight case that they will be able to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt. And we're already seeing some of these favorable court rulings. You had Michigan, I believe the Supreme Court said these affidavits seem to confirm that fraud occurred. And so now we just have to wait for the legal process to play out. But again, no, I truly believe it is more likely than not that President Trump is our president for another 4 years.
Yeah. It depends on the day for me. And today I feel like he's going to stay in office. Is there anything else you want to mention? I feel like we covered your video well and got to know you a little bit more. Obviously, I'm not going to get into your personal stuff because we're keeping all that private. I see your name on Twitter. We're private, but is there anything else you want to talk about briefly?
No, I think it's really important that people are mindful of these kind of things, of concepts like the Great Reset, and just as we've started to say on our side of Twitter, you have to be tapped in. You have to be tapped into what's going on, and you have to try and you can't succumb to that zombie mindset that people are living through. And I guess there is one last thing to say is,
sure,
I think this last 8 to 9 months has been a period where you either wake up in a major way or you go into a deep slumber. And I think it's incumbent on us as patriots, as people who love our country, to wake up and become and develop an acute understanding of these things that are just destroying the world, and fighting for this amazing country. And so that's why I think it's important to really speak up about these issues. And, of course, you had Nick Fuentes on Monday, America First Patriot. And, what I will say is America First is the future, regardless of what happens with the president. America First is the way. And even if President Trump does lose, the next America First guy will not be nearly as forgiving and accommodating as President Trump was at times.
Did you like that interview? I think you did. Because it was really good. It went way better than I thought it would, by the way. So I'm glad you got to enjoy that, and I'm assuming you enjoyed it. Sometimes I just speak like a complete retard.